What if the moment you stopped caring was when she started losing it? What if everything you believed made her love you? Your attention, effort, and devotion was the very reason she walked away. Here's the harsh truth no one wants to admit. The harder you chase, the more you push her away. The more you beg, the less she respects you. But the second you go silent, not out of spite, but out of strength, something inside her shifts. That silence echoes louder than every text you ever sent. This isn't about mind games. It's about reclaiming control. Stoicism teaches one fundamental lesson. You are not ruled by emotions. You master them. That's what sets you apart. That's real power. Detachment isn't heartlessness. It's clarity. And when you step back, when you stop reacting, stop draining your soul for someone who doesn't value it, the dynamic flips. She starts questioning, doubting, unraveling. Why? Because the one thing she took for granted, your attention, is gone. This is the story of a man who turned heartbreak into fuel, not to win her back, but to rise so far above her that she questions how she ever saw herself as the prize. Want her to regret leaving? Don't tell her, show her. Disappear into your purpose. Return unrecognizable. That's the shift. That's the power. That's stoicism. If you're done chasing ghosts, if you're ready to reclaim your energy, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. I control my energy, not their actions. 1. The fall. When you gave too much, you gave her everything. Your time, focus, loyalty. You made her the center of your world, while she treated you as an option. You rearranged your life for her, replied instantly to texts, ignored red flags, and tolerated what you shouldn't have. You thought, if I love her harder, she'll see my worth. But the opposite happened. The more you gave, the less she valued you. The more available you were, the more invisible you became. Here's the brutal reality. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because you stopped being the man she was drawn to, the grounded, decisive, purpose-driven version of yourself. Instead, you orbited her. You became soft, not in a healthy, vulnerable way, but in a needy, dependent way. Women sense this. They don't say it aloud, but they crave leadership, not submission. Stoicism isn't about denying emotions. It's about not being enslaved by them. In this phase, your emotions controlled you. You overthought, sought validation, and abandoned your own values. That's why you fell. You stopped leading. You stopped choosing yourself. And nature corrects imbalance. She left. But here's the gift in the fall. It wakes you up. It shatters the illusion that sacrificing yourself for crumbs is love. It's self-betrayal. And when you realize that, you begin to rise. Not for her, but for you. The man who begged, pleaded, and lost himself, he stays behind. The man who emerges has standards, boundaries, and a mission. He doesn't chase. He attracts. 2. The silence. Stop explaining yourself. You wrote the texts, the long, desperate ones. You poured out your heart, explaining how much she meant to you, how things could have been different, how you just needed closure. You thought if she saw your pain, she'd finally understand. But she didn't respond. Or worse, she left you on read. Here's the hard truth. When someone knows they have your attention unconditionally, they stop valuing it. You believed words could win her back. But real men don't beg. They pause. They go silent, not out of spite, but because they've learned the power of restraint. In Stoicism, silence isn't emptiness, it's discipline. It's a weapon. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop justifying your worth, when you cut off her emotional access, the dynamic flips. She starts wondering why you've stopped trying. She feels the silence like a gathering storm, and for the first time, doubt creeps in. Women aren't used to real detachment. They're used to men who fold, chase, and crumble under distance. But you don't chase anymore. You observe, you build, you turn inward. You let your progress speak for itself. And when she realizes you've rewritten the script without her, that's when regret begins to simmer. Stop sending paragraphs to someone who wouldn't read a sentence. Stop proving your worth to someone who threw it away. Go quiet. Go dark. Let your absence scream louder than your presence ever did. 3. The mirror become who she thought you were. She didn't fall for the man who replied to texts in 5 seconds. She didn't fall for the one who canceled plans just to be available. She didn't fall for the guy who overanalyzed her moods, smothered her with fixes, and made her the center of his universe. No, she fell for the man you used to be, the one with purpose, with fire in his eyes, who didn't need her validation to feel alive. That man had gravity, edge, and somewhere along the way, you traded him for comfort. You became soft, agreeable, always available, and in doing so, you became forgettable. Stoicism teaches that identity isn't defined by feelings, it's defined by action, especially when it hurts. Now, standing in the ashes of heartbreak, you have 2 choices. Stay broken, rebuild stronger. This time, you don't just return to the man she was drawn to, you surpass him. You work in silence. You grind when no one's watching. You chase mastery, not for her approval, but because you finally remembered who the hell you are. Shatter that mirror. The real you, the focused, stoic, unstoppable version doesn't chase, doesn't bend. He evolves. And when she stumbles across a version of you she barely recognizes, it won't just hit her, it'll haunt her. Because you didn't just become what she wanted, you became what she could never have. 4. The shift, you're not her therapist. She brought chaos to your doorstep, and you mistook love for fixing it. She vented, you listened. She broke down, you held her up. She blamed the world, then eventually blamed you, and still, you stayed. You thought your patience proved your worth. It didn't. It proved you had no boundaries. You weren't her boyfriend. You were her emotional crutch, her unpaid therapist, her backup plan when life got hard. And the cruelest part? She never respected you for it. Here's the truth women won't say. They don't value the man who absorbs their storms. They value the man who protects his peace. Stoicism doesn't teach coldness. It teaches discernment. You can have compassion without drowning in someone else's chaos. You're not heartless for stepping back. You're awake to the fact that her pain isn't yours to solve. Awake to the truth that your purpose isn't to heal someone who refuses to heal themselves. You're not her savior. You're not her shield. You're a man on a mission. The shift happens when you stop carrying weight that was never yours. When you stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop letting guilt chain you to a role you never chose. And when you do, she'll feel it. She'll feel the absence of your endless support, the silence where your reassurance used to be. It'll unsettle her because now, for the first time, she has to face herself without you holding the mirror. 5. The replacement. Let her wonder. She knew everything about you, where you were, who you were with, how you felt. You made sure of it. You wanted her to know you still cared, still waited, still hoped. Big mistake. Visibility didn't mean value. It meant predictability. And once someone knows they have you on a leash, respect vanishes. Your loyalty became background noise. Your availability, the death of attraction. Now, you change the game. You go silent. You disappear from her orbit. You stop reacting to her life like you're still in it. No more vague posts hoping she'll notice. No more emotional transparency. You vanish, not to manipulate, but to evolve. Stoicism isn't performative. A real man doesn't announce his growth, he outgrows. And when he does, she starts wondering. She starts checking. She starts feeling the absence she never thought would come. What if he's thriving without me? What if he's becoming the man I wanted, but for someone else? That mental loop is brutal. And you don't answer. You've cut the feed. You're a question mark now. But here's the key. The replacement isn't another woman. It's the man she never got to meet because you were too busy trying to keep her. 6. The shadow used her rejection as fuel. Rejection burns. No sugarcoating it. She left, ghosted, maybe even replaced you like you were nothing. And yeah, it gutted you, made you question everything. But here's the truth. Rejection isn't the end. It's the ignition. Stoicism doesn't teach you to pretend it doesn't hurt. It teaches you to weaponize the pain, to take that raw, screaming energy and forge it into something lethal, not to her, but to every weak version of yourself that ever settled. That rejection, that's your pressure, your fuel, the fire that wakes you up at 5 a.m., sharpens your focus, and strips away every excuse. While she's out chasing distractions, you're turning agony into art. And when she sees you, stronger, calmer, unrecognizable, it'll haunt her. Because deep down, she'll know, I triggered this, and I'll never get to have it. That's not revenge. That's karma. So stop seeing her no as a wound. Start seeing it as the blueprint for who you must become. You're not broken. You're being forged. 7. The throne reclaim your time and space. She once owned your time, your mornings, your nights, your focus. You dropped everything to reply. Skipped the gym, delayed your grind, paused your mission, all for a maybe. You gave her your time like it was free. She treated it like it was worthless. But here's what you missed. Attention is currency. And in the Stoic world, your time is your throne. If you don't guard it, you lose your kingdom. Now, you reclaim it. Your mornings belong to you. Your schedule bends to your will. You stop justifying your absence. You just are. Because men on a mission don't negotiate their time with people who never valued it. And when she notices, it won't just be your absence she feels. It'll be your momentum. You're not where she left you. You're building, creating, rising, and she's not invited. That access? Revoked. When a Stoic man takes back his time, he becomes untouchable. You no longer ask, what is she doing? You ask, what am I building today? That's power. That's presence. That's how kings think. Let her wonder where you are. Let her realize she's no longer the center of your world. Your time isn't up for grabs anymore. It's invested in your future. 8. The frame, don't chase. Attract. You used to chase. Her approval, her attention, her validation. Every move was calculated to pull her closer. You thought proving your love would make her stay. It didn't. All it did was flip the frame. You handed her the power, and she used it. She set the pace. You followed. And the second you stepped out of your masculine energy, the dynamic collapsed. Because no one is drawn to desperation. They're drawn to confidence, independence, unshakable presence. In Stoicism, the frame is everything. You don't react, you respond. You don't follow, you lead. You don't chase, you attract. And the only way to attract? Become valuable, not to her, but to yourself. Lock in. Focus on your body, your bank account, your mission. Build a life so magnetic that anyone entering it must bring real value or be left behind. Then, watch the energy shift. She's no longer in control. She starts asking questions, reaching out, wondering, because she feels the gap between the man you were and the man you've become. Dark psychology says the person who cares less holds the power. But real power isn't about caring less. It's about needing less. You no longer need her to feel whole. You no longer wait for her to validate your worth. You don't chase anymore because you understand. The moment you stopped, everything she thought she controlled slipped through her fingers. You are the frame now. And if she can't match your energy, she doesn't get a seat at your table. 9. The echo. She feels the absence. At first, she didn't notice. You went silent, and she assumed it was temporary. A phase, a reaction. She thought you'd fold like before. Text again. Check in. Watch her stories. But you didn't. You vanished, not out of spite, but strength. And that silence, it started to echo. Because women don't feel your presence when you're chasing. They feel it when it's gone. When the good morning texts stop. When the constant access turns into a locked door. When the validation dries up. Stoicism teaches that presence isn't about noise. It's about intention. You were giving too much with no return. Now, you're gone. Focused. Calm. Building in silence. And that quiet? It speaks louder than anything you ever said. It gets in her head. Because silence doesn't give answers. It forces questions. Why isn't he reaching out? Did he stop caring? Is he really done? With no drama, no reaction, no closure, she's left alone with the echo. This is the power of absence. When you detach, you starve the loop. You take your energy back. And by the time she realizes what she lost, you're already miles ahead. You didn't go quiet to hurt her. You went quiet to hear yourself again. And now that you found that voice, you don't give it up for anyone. Let her sit with the silence. Let her face the emptiness she created. You don't break that silence. She does. 10. The Ascension. She becomes irrelevant. There was a time when everything reminded you of her. A song, a street, a scent. You'd wake up wondering, does she miss me? Every moment was haunted by her ghost. But here's what you didn't realize. Those thoughts were chains. Now, you've broken them. Because you've done what most never do. You ascended. You didn't just move on. You outgrew her. Not as a tactic, but as truth. She's no longer on a pedestal. Just another name in your past. You don't crave closure. You don't rehearse conversations. You don't need her to feel whole. Why? Because you've seen yourself. You did the work. The workouts, the discipline, the rebuild. And when a man rebuilds from pain, he comes back harder to reach, harder to shake, harder to forget. That's the reward for surviving the fire. Clarity. And with that clarity, freedom. Now, she watches from a distance. Maybe she reaches out. Maybe she doesn't. It doesn't matter. You don't move for her anymore. You don't bend. You don't fantasize. She's not a chapter you reread, just part of the story that made you. And the man you are now? He's untouchable. Not because he's bitter, but because he finally knows his worth. Final truth. The moment you stop giving a damn isn't the end. It's the beginning. The beginning of your discipline, your silence, your rise. This was never about her. It was always about you. The man who gave too much, lost himself, and came back 10 times sharper. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't break. You build. You focus. You lead. And when you stop centering your world around someone who couldn't handle your heart, you finally step into the man you were born to be. She might regret. She might wonder. She might reach back out. But by the time she does, it won't even matter, because the version of you she once knew doesn't exist anymore. You're no longer her safety net, her therapist, her backup plan. You're a force, a frame, a man on his throne. And once you reach that level of detachment, that level of clarity, she loses her grip entirely. This is the Stoic path. Quiet, strong, focused, absolutely untouchable. If this hit different, if you're done breaking and ready to build, drop a comment below. I move for no one. Stay sharp, stay focused, stay untouchable.